There's a social aspect on that app, in a way.
SOLO stands for social loans.
There we go.
Wow, you're like
it.
a private investigator. That's amazing.
I
mean, round of applause
for me.
Good job.
Under all is the land, real estate. Courtney and friends about to show you how to generate wealth. Get educated, do for yourself. Add a couple notches to your belt. Under all is the land. Under all is the land. The real under all is the land. Under all is the land. The real estate. Coming to you live from ACME Real Estate in Los Angeles, California.
Welcome to Under All is the Land, Season 3, Episode 4. Can you believe it? I am your host, Courtney Poulos, here with my rock star co-stars, Silke Fernald.
Hello.
And Dominique Madden.
Hello.
Did you guys see the LA Mag story that I commented on Instagram?
Tell me
Which
more.
one?
Which one?
Okay, let me tell you about it. So there was the point of view of the post, I didn't read the whole article, is written by some disgruntled home buyer who feels that listing prices are unfairly misrepresented whenever they see a list price of $949 and the agent says that it should, that it's got to be 1.3 in order to get accepted. They feel duped, like it's false advertising. What do you
Interesting.
think? What do you think? You think they have a valid point of view, these consumers?
I guess it's all about supply and demand. I mean, it's just like when you have eBay with those $1 bids and it says reserve not yet met.
Yep.
So what it says to you, $950, and it has to be higher, that it's just the starting price.
Yeah, that's what
the
I think
asking
too.
price isn't what you get the house for.
Right, and not always, but in the great consumer, belief system, housing is the exception to what otherwise we know as the rule. It's like $9.99 event pricing, but then you have to subscribe to something or you blah blah blah. Like there are always in sales, there are always incentives. Even when you're getting a home loan, if you walk into Bank of America, it's going to say 2.5%, and then on the side it'll say APR, 6.5, and you're like,
right.
They give you a teaser rate but the APR is what the actual rate is.
Right.
And so it is to bring people in, to have the ability to sell them whatever your product is. It is a marketing strategy. So I made a post responding saying this is bullshit, because obviously if you know the real estate market, you know that listing prices are just marketing prices. But I'm like, LA Magazine, really?
It must have been a
Putting that
slow
out.
news day.
Must have been a very slow news day.
I'm actually surprised that hasn't come up sooner. Honestly, with as long as competitive pricing has been a thing, because I know, I'm sure you guys have had this too, where buyers who see properties like that and get their hopes up that there is maybe some magic way that it is going to stay at that number. They frequently comment on that. So I'm actually surprised this isn't something that's come out as some kind of thing sooner.
We just had a listing where we did, because of the optics of the listing, we did have to underprice it a little bit less than what it was listed at before with a different agent in order to get eyes on it again.
Yeah.
But that didn't change what the price is. The seller's expectation of the price. And at a certain point, because we're transparent and ethical agents, I felt that we had to tell people, we do have 15 offers and we do expect to get to this price. And if you write this price, is what the seller wants. But I will say also that usually in that circumstance, under normal circumstances, a seller is going to work with what offers he or she receives. So truly the market sets the price.
Yeah,
Totally.
for sure.
I mean, you can't be mad as a buyer that your offer wasn't accepted if there were 10 other offers that were higher than yours. You can't say, well, but it says $9.99. I wrote that number. I should get the house.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So I think he was just mad for not winning the house.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down
it's
to.
just-
Buyers get mad whenever they don't get accepted on a property, but you have to do what it takes to win if you want the property,
right.
and there are multiple offers.
And if you're working with a real estate agent who's showing you houses, showing you comps, you kind of know where things are going to land, then you don't get duped and you don't feel duped. It's really a matter of being an informed buyer.
And let's talk about why people do underpricing,
Okay.
because I think that you know, like if when buyers are in the space of being a seller, they understand why this is necessary. Because when you as a seller tell a buyer, this is the price that I really want, which is justified by market comps, right? Very frequently, they're like, I don't want to pay that price.
Right.
I want to pay $100,000 less than that price,
Exactly.
right? It's a marketing strategy to get effective, you know, competitive offers that have better terms, and, you know, potentially even get a little bit more out of it for your client versus getting people constantly trying to bid it down. So, you know, it's a necessary tactic, unfortunately. And if buyers could be more honest with their offers, you know, then it could be something that's avoided, you know?
But
that's
first
true.
inclination is when you see the true price. People will be like, let's go 100 lower or 200 lower and see how far we get. And then getting them to push back up is very difficult. So why don't we make it look like a deal? Have several offers and then
let the market set the price.
Exactly.
But the other thing I was going to say is I have buyers right now who are getting guidance from their parents who are in financial industries who are believing that, we're still the recession talk. Still, it's going to ... Still, I think the house is worth $150,000 less, no matter what house it is that we're writing on. So, you know, I was able to, for example, convince my seller that that's actually not true. And my feel is that I've worked in DC. That's a one-horse town. The government prints money. They always remain employed. The market never suffers, really. Entertainment industry, same thing. When the economy is rough, entertainment still thrives. When the economy is great, entertainment still thrives. There will be jobs here. There are only so many people who can be Foley artists. There are only so many, you know, Academy Award-winning directors to hire that for the next big feature film. People will remain employed, and film sets employ a lot of people. For example. So I think our economy is good. There will be people to buy houses.
In LA. Yeah, 100%.
And so I'm like, we don't have the same market conditions as Oklahoma, as Pennsylvania, as these other places that are being lumped into this great American recession prediction. So I'm like, you know, honestly, what we have to deal with is what's right here, right now. So there was a house we wrote an offer, you know, under, but not as low as Dad wanted to go. And the sellers have been on the market for months. Counted us at list. And even added a sale of home contingency. I'm like, that's why the house hasn't sold. So there's no mystery to why, like, for example, the house I was talking about before, it didn't sell, because the strategy, the will of the seller to deal with the true market situation isn't there. And if a house isn't selling, in my opinion, it's not because the buyers are necessarily being super unreasonable, but it's more because the distance between what the buyer's expectations are and what the seller's expectations are it's too great.
Right, but also sometimes sellers don't really have to sell. Like the point you made the other week. Like this seller is just sticking to his guns. Like, I'm not getting the price. I'm countering you at list. And a for sale and a home sale contingency. So he has to still find something else first, which tells you he's chill. If he's not selling at his price, he's not going to sell.
I mean, I feel like new construction gets away with this. Too. You know, I mean, they stick to their guns because they know the value of new construction. I'm fighting this fight as well right now. It's like you have to understand the comps. And, you know, I think the other thing is we sell in a lot of neighborhoods where there are agents from outside the neighborhood that come in and don't understand the comps. That's why it's so important to understand comps. It's like a lot of agents don't get it.
Well, and how to comp. There's pooling them and there's reading them. And like, I feel like people have a hard time on both things. It's like they can pull up everything that's sold within a half mile. But can you compare it?
Interpret it.
Can you accurately compare it to the property that you're looking at? You know,
and see the differences for real. See the site differences. See the quality of finish differences.
I was just. We just had this exact conversation yesterday with a flipper who compared his project to something we sold one street over for a record price, and he's basically trying to tell us,
the products are different. The products are very different.
It's not. You can't always compare one flip to another. That's for sure. And you see that way too frequently. You know, like if someone's redone all the systems and this other one has done none of the systems, just cosmetic, they're going to sell it to vastly different prices. You know.
And also, there's a difference between a rebuild and a renovation. And I don't think people totally get that either when they're comparing comps, because buyers are looking at the same thing. Like if the agent can't explain to them, listen, this was an architectural, this was a rebuilt home, like from the ceiling to the floor is new design, floor plan, framing, like everything, versus these flippers worked with the existing floor plan, changed a few things, opened up some walls, but essentially the house is still the same, and what we're doing is all on the inside. These are two different, completely different things. So, you know, I do think they garner different sales prices, like different price per square foot, especially in these areas that are like new to some agents, where they can't even believe that their buyers are looking.
And you know, and that's a good point too, just about like price per square foot. You know, like two flips on the same street could have vastly different price per square foot based on how they're done. Like we just had the property in West Adams that sold for a couple $100,000 over the list. Another one where we strategically priced, but it was also really well done. All the systems were done, the hardscaping, the landscaping, all of the things. It was very thorough. There's a house that has exactly the same specs down the street that is still on the market at $400,000 less than what we closed for. That is also a flip.
Right.
But it's more of a paint on a pig, less thorough flip. Right. So it's not, their price per square foot is vastly different for what two people are calling flips.
Right.
So like if anyone ever tells you to search based on price per square foot,
it
ain't the way.
That's not the way.
It ain't the way.
Yeah,
Quality,
and also
it's quality per square foot.
It's quality
That's
per square
what
foot.
you
do.
I like that. That's really good.
I like that.
Trademarked. It's trademarked.
Yeah, back off.
Well, we're going to continue that very important conversation in a couple minutes. But first, I'd like to introduce a very special guest we have in the studio with us today, Rodney Williams, who is the president and co-founder of Solofunds, a peer-to-peer lending service. Very creative, very innovative, and one of a kind. And I can't wait to hear more about his business, how he came up with the idea, and what services it has to offer our community. Welcome, Rodney. Woo! Welcome to Under All Is the Land.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure. I heard you're an ACME fan.
I am an ACME fan. I secretly sneak by the houses all the time.
That's
great.
great.
She said she remembered you coming by Sycamore.
It's like I'll go with or without a realtor. It's just completely like, oh, there's a new house, let me go check it out.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so are you actually shopping? Are you just curious about what's happening, or what's your...
I am actually shopping.
Cool.
Yes, I am actually shopping. I do own a home in the Valley, but I rented that home out, and now I live near Mid-City. And I've been looking in the area.
Yeah.
But I don't have like I don't have a decision point.
Right.
But I really do want to own a home, another home. Like I'm tired of renting at this point.
Oh, yes. Break up with your rental, my friend.
Yes.
Well, let's introduce you to our audience. So if you could just tell us your name again and what your current role is, even though I've already introduced you, and also, what your business is, what it is you do.
Definitely. Well, I'm Rodney Williams. I'm a co-founder and president of Solofunds. Number one, Solo started from a personal point of our friends and family needing access to short-term capital. Most notably, like my mom, growing up, she would need like $100 to pay a bill. And in most cases, she would fall short. That would lead to really predatory solutions or options. In most cases, just like sitting at home with no electricity, for example.
We've been there.
So as I this is my second venture in fintech, as I kind of was starting my next thing, I wanted to create something that made an impact. And that became Solo. It's pretty simple in the way I'm going to explain it. We allow people to lend and borrow from each other. So if you need a loan, you make a request, you set an optional voluntary tip and donation. The tips go to the lending member, and you could be a lending member. So you make tips for lending, and on the flip side, someone gets access to capital who needs it.
That is brilliant.
It is brilliant. And you know what? It's interesting. I've said this, we've talked about this gently before. There are communities that do this kind of exclusively to their community. And I've always thought, there need to be solutions for other people.
Within just the house.
Within certain religious groups and within certain, there are people who just do this for their group. But lots of people need this. And it does help lift each other up. Even if it's gentle. I always tell that story about when my electricity bill, I had to make a choice, like I had to pay this or that, and it was like I needed $100. And the guy who owned the Minute Mart down the street I went in there all like, and he's like, what is it that you need? And I'm like, $100, and I promise I will pay you back. And he gave me $100, and I was so moved by it. It made such an impact for me. And of course I paid him back immediately, but it was like, wow, there is good in this world, you know?
Yeah, it's such a shock, but most Americans, they will have a financial shock 4 times a year. And it's a compounding effect. It's like my dog bill, the flat tire, oh, this is also when I'm gonna get laid off.
Right.
Right?
And the taxes.
And the taxes. So they exhaust their savings for one bill. That means a couple things are gonna be paid late. That means grocery shopping is a lot less. All of a sudden, $100 feels like something I could really need. And where do you go for a $100 loan?
Right.
That's like, you tend to go to friends and family. So the average household actually lends $3,800 to friends and family. That is literally the average in the United States. Or you go to these informal places. You can get a loan from your church. There's certain communities, there's groups of moms that actually, they call them informal savings clubs. In ethnic communities, like I'm Caribbean, they call it partners, that you can actually, like they save together and they lend together. The point is, all of these solutions have existed because big banks and financial service companies haven't created something better than a payday loan.
Right.
That's
right.
it.
That's
right?
it.
That's your only choice.
Right.
But there's a big need for it.
And there's a big cost to a payday loan.
There's a big cost.
I mean, they take a lot out of your, like if you have to cash a check before it, whatever. They take like how much? 25%, 20%?
The shocking thing, well, number one, we're literally one of the fastest micro lenders in the country. We do about 40,000 loans a month. We've done over 500,000. We're doing 20 million in volume a month.
Wow.
We quickly became that, not because of great marketing, but because we found an unmet need. But as the largest lender, we just commissioned the first total cost study, and you actually be shocked. The most expensive solution for this demographic is actually a subprime credit card. It's actually more expensive than a payday loan. I had no clue.
Wow.
But it's really because if you think about it, to get a $500 credit card, that's like the bottom. In most cases, there's an annual fee. There's most cases, they charge the max APR for that state. In most cases, if you're late, they compound the late fee every single month. And if you don't need an emergency, you tend to need cash.
Right.
So you know that extra cash drawdown fee? The combination made it more expensive than a payday loan. I was shocked to look at that.
Wow.
And if you pay the minimum on this card, you'll never pay it off because the minimum would just cover the fees every month.
And the entire system, the barometer is APR.
Yeah.
But late fees aren't included in APR.
Right.
Annual fees are not.
Criminal. This is really
and that's exactly.
Yeah.
So what's the minimum amount of a loan?
Yeah.
And what's the maximum amount?
The minimum is $20.
Okay.
And the maximum is $575. Today.
Okay. So it's really microfinancing.
It's really microfinance. But, we made sense. Subprime credit cards is a $500 credit card. It's a $190 billion industry. The payday loan, the average payday loan is like $300. That is a $40 billion industry. One of the things about microfinance, it's also like a bad word. Americans, we don't like to think that someone needs that. And I remember, we spend time with investors all day, and they were like, people really need a couple $100. And then COVID happened, and the whole world stopped for $600.
Yeah.
And I was like,
those $600 checks. I did not get one.
I didn't get one. I mean, it didn't stop for me, but like literally, there was people like checking the mail, that $600 lasted a long time for a lot of people. And I think that's what changed.
I remember seeing a statistic, and I wish I could remember what exactly it was, but it was something drastic, like 80% of Americans have less than $1,000 in their bank account, something like that, right? And, I know people myself who sometimes go negative, and it's easily done when you have several kids and a job that pays minimum wage and a lot of random needs that come up out of that, so... it happens more than I think a lot of people realize.
Oh my God, we're a certified B Corp, right?
Okay.
And I was literally on a call today, and
what is a B Corp?
So it's a benefit corporation.
Okay.
So and then you can be certified by B Labs, It's a distinction, a difference between like a standard C corp.
Okay.
It basically means that you have a dedicated purpose to benefit the greater good.
Okay.
And then you have to validate what that greater good is. It doesn't mean that you're not for profit. It just means that you prioritize the greater good. Notable B corps are like Patagonia, Shea Moisture. There's a couple of folks like that. There's like an ice cream company out here that's also a B corp, but I'm slipping mine. But I was on a call with them today. Like, this is a group, and everyone leaves the call, and then the person that remains says, "Hey, Rodney, I'm a user of Solo. Like, I just want you to know, like,
wow.
I actually, like, people would never think that I would be, but to your point, things happen where you just exhaust the little bit that you have, and cash flow is sometimes inconsistent." And who do you go to? And it's actually, when you go to your friends or family, it's actually really awkward and it strains the relationship. Even if for $100, like, it's such a weird moment to say, like, can I borrow $100? And you're like,
Yeah, I had a friend who I felt for and would loan her money when she needed it to get out of certain things. And it definitely strained our relationship and created a very unusual dynamic, and we never recovered from it, and we are no longer friends.
I do think there's also like the risk there because, like whenever someone borrows from a family member or a close friend, there's also less accountability sometimes to repay
And
them.
they make you look like the bad guy when you ask for it back.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in my situation, I tried to make there be a thing to do, like a job associated with it, so that it wasn't just like a, but even that, every time I checked on that, it felt like I'm supposed to be the bad guy. Like,
Right.
No, I didn't like that.
my
Money is a
co-founder,
tricky one.
Yeah, he calls it convenient amnesia.
I owe you that. Well, let's talk about that for a second, because is there an interest? Like, what is the benefit? What is the profit part? How does that work?
Yeah, so it's a tip that goes to the lending member, and then it's a donation to the platform.
So when you say a tip, just break it down for me, because I don't totally know the platform like
Yes.
that. But like, say I borrowed $20 from Silke,
Yes.
then where's the tip part come in?
You can decide.
I'd say I want $5 back as a result of that.
No.
Oh.
If you want to say, hey, I want $20, I'm willing to tip $2.
Okay.
You see that request and you can agree to that, or another lender would agree to that.
Okay, got it.
It's all borrower
So it's my
control.
choice. If I accept that my 20 is worth $2
Exactly.
at payback.
Yes.
And how long do people have to pay back?
They have 35 days, but in most cases it's a 15-day. They repay in about 15 days.
Most people pay it back in 15 days.
Yeah.
And the donation to the platform is, again,
Voluntary.
We could be like, okay, I give $1 to the platform, $2 to whoever gives me the money.
Yeah. We wanted to empower people. If you ever went and tried to apply for a loan, you're like, please.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then it's like a very uncomfortable moment, because most likely you're going to get denied. So we wanted to kind of like flip the power and make it more empowering. And what's more transparent than you set the cost?
Right.
So we don't have complaints about like, what did I pay? Or
Right, like it's costing me too much to borrow this money.
Hidden fees. No,
Right.
because people are actually agreeing to what they feel it's worth.
Is there a minimum though? Could somebody come in and try to be smart? Like, okay, I'll do 5 cents as a
tip
towards the platform.
The platform, one of my favorite stats is actually the platform gets donated less than the individual members tip to individual members. So what I'm ultimately saying is only about 84% of the loans have a donation to us, the company, but 99+% always have a tip. They always leave something. But when you think about it, right, this demographic understands that they can order a pizza, and for that person bringing that $20 pizza,
there's going to be a tip.
I'm willing to give that person $5 so they came really fast.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, if you gave me $20 to give me gas so I can go to work,
Yeah.
of course I want to give you $5. Like you did that out the kindness of your heart.
Right.
And that's the dynamic that is just more human than like this faceless bank.
Right.
Totally.
How
Awkward
does
thing.
this logistically work?
Yeah. So
There's a
seems
platform,
very
there's a
complicated.
website, right?
And what if people don't pay you back in a certain amount of days? Like, what happens?
Good question.
yeah. So like the idea is novel, right? The architecture for what we build is actually pretty difficult and pretty complex.
Yeah.
So we're when a user signs up, they actually connect their external bank account. We can continue to be connected to that bank account. Number one, that's how we score the borrower. So we provide a score. It's based on cash flow. We don't believe in FICO. This demographic doesn't believe in FICO. But if I see a consistent, or we see a consistent cash flow, meaning you make it work, you figure it out, and we look at the past 24 months, we determine a score, and then that score is how you decide who to lend to.
It's like an Uber driver score.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
If you pay back on time and if you're
Obviously,
good, then
yes.
you get your good score,
Yes.
and da-da-da. Okay,
You can
that's
see past
like,
behavior, things like that. And then that's also how we collect repayment. We stay connected to the bank account. So when you users say that you're willing to repay it back, we then check your account at that moment in time. If the money is there, you've already given us permission to take it. If it's not, we actually do not overdraft as well. We wait until there's money is present. It's these little nuances.
That's so thoughtful. I mean, that's
yeah,
amazing.
You're not
I
punished
love
the
that.
already punished, which
Right.
is great, because what's the point? You're already in minus, you can't pay. Why
Right.
do we put you deeper down into the hole?
Exactly, which has always been a complaint around
It's-
traditional banking.
yeah,
right.
It's
They
like,
don't care.
You keep charging overdraft
Yeah.
fees for people who have
Yeah.
nothing. It's like
Yeah.
making me more and more in debt.
Yeah.
It's unacceptable. Highway robbery, but they're criminal on Wall Street anyway. We already know that. But how could this be applied? I mean, well, I'm curious to know if you think there's a larger model where this could be used to help people either collectively buy homes together or do like percentage investment in homes or something like that. Is there a housing component to this that you can see as part of your future?
100%. What you are hearing is an emergence of what we believe is a new and a more equitable financial model for a bank or financial institution. We call it community finance, but it's where people are driving the decisions of the financial company, right? So today, when you look at this is an asset class that's being backed individually. We will start to pool our members that are lending, and they're going to decide to do other lending products. First, we're going to do credit cards. We're going to do maybe like higher amount loans. But imagine if there's an impact, you can decide to invest in a business or to support a development project.
Yeah.
And then you can say, hey, well, I want $1,000 lending to people who need microloans. I want $2,000 going to people who need credit cards, and I want my $10,000 to support an impact development in Los Angeles. That's how I believe I think people want more autonomy and control over their deposits. Like your deposits, number one, a bank is lending it right now.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Right? And let's be very clear, they're making the vast majority of it. One of my biggest problems with the banks is that I didn't get the call from Goldman Sachs and Northwestern Mutual about how they can manage my money and how I can get so much yield until I put a bunch of money in it.
Right.
I was like, wow, like you guys get this type of yield, got all these investment products. So when I had $50,000 in the account, you didn't call me. You know how many Americans have 50,000 or less? That's everyone else.
Yeah, not many even have 50,000.
Not in many, but they have like 1,000. But that's the point. Like people, the problem with the large group is that they don't have access to capital when they need it, and when they do have a little bit, it does not grow.
That's right.
Yeah. Here's my favorite story of a lender. Imagine a lender literally has $2,000 and he's lending on Solo. He's a pastor. He's a mechanic down the street. The average lender makes 20% at the end of the year annually lending on platform. This pastor took $400 at the end of the year. That paid for his Christmas without him touching his savings.
Brilliant.
Like, I don't know if we think like that, but that's how we think, and that's the power of community
No,
finance.
that's how we should think.
Yeah,
and
because
also,
it's smaller, but it has a bigger impact.
It does, but we also have talked many times about how even home ownership feels out of reach for people. People get frustrated when they see changes happening in neighborhoods where they're like, we created this and we want to be able to participate in the growth without giving anything up, you know? Like we want it to be affordable, but we also want to profit from the growth too. And it's like, it's paralyzing.
Yeah.
It's paralyzing.
But
this is like an opportunity for you to start a path toward becoming an even bigger investor by just comprehending on a small step-by-step kind of level how what you have is valuable, what you can give kind of be effective, and then you still make some, you know, you still make a little bit of something too that could cover your Christmas or whatever. It's genius.
And trust me, every time we go into an industry, like we have huge plans, but mortgage is I think it's the wildest because there's still big banks getting in trouble for red money.
Oh, 100%.
So
every day, it's like there's a new one.
So it's very clear that they don't make the best decisions.
Right.
Right? Number one.
Well, what's clear is that they have an institutional agenda that is willing to break the rules until it gets caught, which we've already learned about. We already know this from the previous, 2008 crisis. They and then when they got caught, they're like, we need help, and who bailed them out? Taxpayers, but who bails out people when we make mistakes?
Exactly. I cannot wait to offer a product. A mortgage product. I cannot wait because of some of the choices that the big banks have made and have failed at doing.
Are you working on that?
It's so the way we, as a financial institution, you got to legally put yourself in position to lend more broadly. And that's kind of where we're at placing right now. So we're in the process of getting broad ranges of lending licenses across multiple states that gives us flexibility to lend in a much wider type of lending products.
So I learned that if you don't take federal funds, you can control the interest rate. So are you guys planning to do it without taking federal funds so you can control the interest rate?
Yeah, we're never going to take institutional capital. This is always 100% going to be people capital. Like,
that's amazing.
Listen, you're like, imagine buying a home and you get a list of 10 people that backed you to buy this home. Like, they're in this with you.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Number one, when you pay your mortgage, a little different.
Right.
It's not like
Because you're screwing an actual person.
You're screwing an actual person.
Right. Yes.
And
we
They
don't
can find me
bad.
on Facebook.
Yeah, and you know what else?
Yes,
Be
and they're
smart.
probably connected with them through the app. There's a social aspect on that app in a way.
SOLO stands for social loans.
There we go.
Wow, you're
got
like a
it.
private investigator. That's amazing. I mean, round of applause
For
Silke.
me.
Good job. In that circumstance, if somebody takes a loan that's a bigger loan product and say something happens where they can't pay their mortgage, there can be you can find other ways to other people who are willing to step in there too. It's not like they'd have to foreclose, right? Like you can maybe find somebody else.
Yeah, I mean the concept is actually completely different, right? Like as a company, it's just it's strict institutional rules. Like if you're late 3 times, first of all, you get this fee. It's very different than going to your quote unquote board of owners, right, or board of supporters and saying, "Hey, I lost my job," right? What are my options? And then that board can take over the mortgage, can do more things, can give grace. Especially if you know what, you've been paying for 4 years, I made yield off of this investment.
Right.
I will forgive the yield this year. This is active choices that honestly people would do.
For other people.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. It's like humanizing the lending. It's never been done before.
Yeah. Are there regulations for you guys though? It's probably not that easy, right? To do
Oh
this?
my gosh.
Yeah.
That's what honestly keeps us up all night is because for me, there's clear right and wrong.
Yeah.
And regulation is designed for you to keep doing what has been done, not designed to reinvent the model. So, and regulators are not that savvy. They're underpaid. They have a ton of things that they got to review. So they make quick determinations and interpretations that are not always correct. Mm-hmm. And then we, as the financial system is number one, so discriminatory. The amount of money that you need to take to go out and get licenses, and the amount of money that you need to take to even build the infrastructure is millions of dollars. The amount of money that you have to use to lobby and tell your story to the individuals who could shut you down also is pretty expensive. So it's just part of the game. We're taking it on the chin, but it's cumbersome the amount of conversations that we have to have to continue to do what we do.
How does someone engage with your platform? So do you just go on, create an account, tell biological information about yourself, here's where I'm from, here's what I do.
Here's my profile.
How's it go?
It's pretty quick.
I said biological. I meant biographical, just for the record.
Oh, and I was thinking of biometrics.
That'd be weird. Sorry. Anyway.
So honestly, just iOS, Android, you can go to solofunds.com and access the account. It takes 2 minutes. It's the same process that you would to start a bank account, essentially. Scan your ID, connect your bank accounts, and then you get in. It's all about verification. We want to make sure it's a human and not like a bot, and also want to protect the marketplace. But it's pretty quick.
Do you have to be American?
You do have to be American resident. And I will tell you, because there's going to be a bunch of California residents, if you are trying currently, we are currently paused as we're talking to all of the fancy people up in Sacramento to get to a resolution in about 60 days. So California will be back on in about 60 days.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Oh, but people right now, nationally, can use it.
Nationally, yes.
Awesome. Outside of California.
Exactly.
What's California's problem?
Frickin' Sacramento.
Dude, you know what? This is like when they came in and made my client tear her guest house down that was perfectly fine construction, pre-ADU, and had a tenant in it. When they say their stated agenda is to solve like the housing crisis, but they're literally actively taking perfectly happy, paying tenants out of their homes. And, you know, this state is so screwed up sometimes.
You know, it's I am not your political person, right? I'm not, because I come from a community where I've like, it just never helped me. And then to start a company to try to make an impact, it kind of goes back to the same result. Like, wait a minute, you guys aren't helpful here. The reality is that there's payday lenders up and down the street.
Right.
Right?
They have a lobby?
Of course. Of course. They fund, they're like the top 3 funder of campaigns in California.
What?
Like, you can look it up. Yeah.
Oh, I did not
Payday
know that.
lenders, that's interesting.
That is. Are bonds people up there? Like bail bondsmen? Anyway.
Wow.
That is fascinating.
So there's certain powers that don't necessarily like that we have to exist.
Okay.
Now,
Gotcha.
it's super easy for someone to say, cool, like call them up, tell them to pause. I don't know these guys. When we go to talk to them, they're like, okay, we can't pause these guys.
Right.
They're doing the right thing. There's no legal precedence to do this to them. And honestly, like we're like proactively doing it, but it's almost like discriminatory enforcement, or I like to say selective enforcement, not selectively choosing. But whether the selection was based on someone lobbying to selectively do it,
right,
or it was based on something else, it's not necessarily fair. With that said, when we do get to tell our story, when our team gets to present the product, it's usually extremely favorable. And I think that's the process where California has ultimately landed, and we're looking for it for California residents joining in a few months.
Good. California residents need it.
Of course.
They need it the most. It's a huge market.
The most. I have so many stories, but I tell her story. Her name is Brittany Chavez. She would be a great guest. She runs a platform called Shop Latinx.
Okay.
It's a great platform. It's a marketplace for Latinx goods. When she was starting her company, she lived in East LA. Solo was the thing that kept her alive.
Wow.
And now she's raised $3 million. She's successful. She's moved to New York. She's a vet. But she goes back to like, I went to college. I tried the American dream. I fell short. I was an Uber driver, and I went at home and I was building my companies. I lived a point where like every dollar counted, and there was nothing for me. And I was smart enough to not go get a payday loan.
Right.
Like the people that use us are smart. They're like
not going to pay. Yeah. I mean, like, you know, we've talked about Dominique and I, our sisters, and our mom was raised on a farm and really didn't have any training, which a lot of people, if it's not a farm, it's some equivalent to not having parents really teach you about debt and finances. They don't teach it in school, which they absolutely should. But I remember learning what she was paying for her car interest rate, and I was like, what? It was like some crazy number. I'm like, why? You know, I mean, people think that's what they deserve too, and they're willing to accept it because they've been bad. They think they have bad credit, and they're like, well, if I get a car, I'm going to just have to pay this 11% interest rate or something.
It's
and it's punishing. Yeah. And it's like you don't know you have options.
Yeah, that's why I hate this whole credit score thing. I hate it.
It's
the lower your credit score, the more you have to pay in penalties. But you're not the person that can afford it because your credit score is lower.
Well, it
doesn't even make any sense. And also, I mean, you know, I'm from Germany. There's no such thing as credit scores. So like they look at your income.
Yes.
Like what can you afford? That's it.
Right.
Score back whatever. Who cares? What's a score? First came in, I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And you build it in these funny ways. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway.
No, I bought 3 houses in my life, and I'm always confused and upset when I'm talking to the mortgage person or the mortgage bank and we're going through the financials.
What is the most confusing piece?
Well, number one, back to your, like, they scrutinize entrepreneurs or small businesses. Like, heavily.
So you mean like they make you be in your industry for 2 years? They make you justify. They see all your business accounts.
Yeah. So like if you're a small business or you own something, like it's so much more diligence versus like if you're like, oh, I work at Nike,
right,
or I work at something,
right,
and you could be working there for 3 months,
and you could be working there for 1 month.
Yes.
All you need is the first paycheck to get financed, but you can also lose your
get
job
laid
there
off the
so
next
easily.
day.
Yes.
Exactly. So it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
We were talking about this with appraisals too, like why appraisals matter so much. When it was Leslie Black, I think it was saying, when if you're going to foreclose, you're not foreclosing in this market anyway. So the appraisal is valueless. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, I hate that part, but I actually think it's significantly harder to be an entrepreneur or a small business to own a home because of the level of scrutiny that happens and the additional requirements that happen. And also, like, what I've also learned, if you got a big enough small business and you move your small business banking to that bank, all of a sudden, all these interesting products that you guys have.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who gets these products?
Right.
When did these no one told me about these products.
Right. So you're talking about Bank of the West?
I'm talking about Bank of the West. I'm talking about First Republic.
Because I know Bank of the West actually has some
First
really
Republic.
great products. You move some money in there, and then all of a sudden it's like knocking points off your interest rate like crazy.
Well, same with First Republic and their Eagle Home Loan Program. I know that they have some requirements for people to
you have
move
to
money
move all
over.
your stuff
Move money
over
to
to
the
a
bank.
certain percentage of the purchase price. Yeah.
and have a certain amount of money in the bank.
Hey, I'm not mad at anything if I can to reduce my interest rate. But anyway, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm not mad at it. I just like, the point is that information isn't broadly shared.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And that's what happened. Like I was like, well, my first loan was like Wells Fargo, and I got beat up in that process. But I should have just went to one of these entrepreneur-friendly banks and got something different, right?
Right.
Right. But
Right.
you just the knowledge isn't completely disproportionate.
Well, I think a mistake that a lot
Sure.
of first-time home buyers make is going to institutional lenders instead of to brokers. What brokers have access to a lot of different products, and banks only have what they have. And since 2008, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, they have bigger, like they have scrutiny on them, which makes them scrutinize us even more.
Yeah.
Whereas some have a little bit more flexibility with their products. There are products out there.
Yes,
You just have to hunt for them. It's not like brought to your attention. They're not knocking on your door saying, "Hey, here's a way to reduce your interest rate."
Yeah. My final thing I don't like, I hate all the other fees.
Like flood cert and
you get the sheet and it's like
origination.
It's like,
and all
what
that
is this? And you're like, need another check of this. And I'm like, I thought it was 5%. I thought it was 3%, right? I thought
That's a starting point.
Back to my point, like all these other fees, no one talked about these other fees.
Right. They found ways.
They found ways.
There is a sub escrow fee that I still haven't figured out what that's
it
for,
means.
but everybody gets charged that when they buy. Nobody can explain it to me.
Yeah, but if everybody knew all of these things, then so many different companies would be out of business because then people would know, no, don't get the payday loan, don't get the mortgage with this company. I mean, I got totally railed with my first car on interest from one of these little, I was in Florida at the time, and it was one of those little places you probably shouldn't trust,
Right.
where the car looked like it was a great price, and then whenever you add interest, it's
Yeah.
That's
how they make their money.
Double that price.
I would say the demand is always there, and that's why you do it, right? You need a car, you need a home, you need to make it to the end of the week,
Right.
and
You need
human hierarchy
electricity.
of needs is just what we need.
Well, when you're ready to launch your mortgage or home buying financial education piece, we'd love to help educate people on how to make smart home buying financial decisions,
Yes.
because I feel like a lot of what we're doing on this podcast and a lot of what we do with our agents and with our clients is around how to maneuver the system to your situation and turn it around.
Yeah.
Because I know for me, it's been so transformative. Real estate has transformed my life and my ability to provide for my kid and, all the things. Like, there's no other way to do it. There are secrets in there that we can share. We'd
100%.
We'd be happy to help
we would
people with that.
We would love
That'd be
that.
amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Can you please tell everyone how they can find you online? You mentioned your website, but you can say it again, and your IG, and how can they find you?
Well, I'm everywhere at Rodney B, as in boy, Rodney B Williams. So I'm on IG as well as everything else. Solofunds, please go support, wave, yell, tell everyone about it. It's a movement that I want people to support, whether you're a user or not. If you believe that people should help people, then please support us. But thank you for having me.
Yes, such a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yay.
Yes.
Congratulations. Really incredible.
That was so
what you're doing.
good. That's so cool.
Okay.
Yes.
You know what? I gotta say, something else occurred for me this week, which is I truly, honestly, and I've said it before, but I really, really believe that we all need to check ourselves on where we make excuses and who we blame for our own personal failures.
Yes.
Because this week I felt definitely like confronted by witnessing somebody who like probably is their own worst enemy in certain ways. Like, you know, blaming everyone else for your lack of performance is not the way to get where you want to go. You have to create solutions or know yourself well enough to be like, I procrastinate this thing. Like I had a business coach, he told me, it was like the best advice I ever got, which was if you procrastinate it, outsource it. Like that is the one thing that you need to do as a business owner. Because if you let certain things like accounting or bookkeeping shit you hate to do go, the problem it creates will shut your business down.
Yep.
Same way
Great
with
advice.
when you're a real estate agent.
Yeah.
If you find yourself going, I need to do the social media, but I can't do it, or I need to do this thing, but I can't do it, or I'm not motivated to do it, or I don't know how to do it, or I feel like I'm not doing it right, you have to find the solution and like be the solution, outsource somehow, but you cannot keep creating excuses for yourself or blaming other people for your lack of performance. That is the fucking truth. And when I hear people like Rodney creating solutions that are brilliant solutions, I'm so inspired and motivated. It just reminds me that if you want to be in this circle of people making waves, you have to be one of the people who makes the action of solving problems.
Be the change you want to see.
Be the change you want to see. That has energy in it. It has power in it. It's so inspiring to me.
Yeah.
It really is. And the fact that he took something that's like this huge missing piece in the market, that it's so funny that no one else has thought of that, you know? That no one else
think about that a
people
lot.
thought of it. No, but I mean like in a human way.
Right,
You
yes,
know?
right,
Like
yes.
that like that the only way that we've come up with so far is with high interest and, you know, implications if it's not paid the way they want it.
Yeah.
They want it to
Yeah.
be seen.
Yeah.
But otherwise it's really just people between people offline, you know, that have been trying to solve each other's problems, and now to see it on a bigger scale is just like, it's amazing, and in such a considerate way. Like
Yes.
I love that they don't overdraft. You know, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that even, you know, whenever they get into this like mortgage realm, right? They're trying to think of ways that it would avoid. And, you know, like, even if someone couldn't pay, you're trying to avoid a negative impact instead
Right.
of penalize people.
Right,
It's just
exactly.
so human. And
It's-
that is the
it's
thing
brilliant.
that people are missing today because we're being programmed not to be human,
Right.
essentially.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're being programmed to not even accept our own humanity. Like we're tearing ourselves apart visibly. Like, I don't know.
We're distancing.
Yeah, we're doing all the things. But we're judging each other. We're judging ourselves. We need to get back on track with our purpose here.
Yeah.
And it does involve like collaboration
Meaningful
and community.
things. Meaningful
And there
things. And
is
this
a
is meaning-
psychology to
yes.
being poor. There is
Yeah.
a thing that hurts over and over again
Yeah.
when I've experienced it, and it sucks so bad. But there are systems in place to keep you exactly where you are, and you start to accept that that's how it's going to be. And no matter how many creative ways you try to get around it, you find yourself sinking. It's like quicksand. It's fucking quicksand. And that's why people break the laws. That's why people steal formula from the grocery store. That's why people do. It's not because they don't know it's wrong. It's because
to
you
survive.
think, well, there's not a better way for me.
Yeah.
I need this thing and I gotta get it now. And I don't see a solution, and I've got this problem right in front of me, and it's a crying baby, and I'm gonna do what I have to do. You know? And so I do think that there's something in there, you know, where this solves. It doesn't make you feel guilty for needing help. And so it's even psychologically elevating.
Yeah. You know,
And you can do something good there. I mean, as you can also get on there to help.
Right.
Do you have a couple $100?
Laying around.
Yeah, put it in there and help somebody.
Yeah.
Pay for the next gas bill.
Absolutely.
Make a $5 tip, whatever.
We're gonna do it.
Yes,
ACME's
I
gonna
cannot
do it.
wait to sign up for that thing.
Let's do it. Yeah. Yeah?
Yeah. I was just thinking about something that I can't remember where I heard it or like where this came up. They were talking about how like black men in America, black people in America are kind of like, you know, there's like in competition, they're kind of like encouraged to be against each other versus with each other.
I know what it was. It was
What
the
was
Dave Chappelle podcast. It was the podcast. I just saw this Dave Chappelle podcast where he's the new podcast with Mos Def.
Yeah,
well, it's like season 2.
Yes.
And Mos
Okay.
Def
Was
is
that
on
what
it.
you did? You sent that to
I
me.
did,
then.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. So that's what it was.
Yep.
But it feels like it kind of applies to this because what they were saying on that is like, you know, we've been trained to be against each other, but the best, you know, like the way that teams work best is not being competitive but collaborative.
Yes.
You know, and yeah,
Totally.
that it just so speaks to what like Rodney is doing. And his dream for all of like, you know, financial institution, but not non-institution related financial literacy and access
Yeah.
for people.
And I love that it's not a gimmick. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
This is, you remember when Wells Fargo did the whole like, we're going to do minority lending? Or was it Bank of America? I don't remember. We
Yeah.
talked about it.
Zero
Bank of
down.
America. Yeah, it was like, we're targeting
But we make it
minority
impossible for you to qualify.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's a
Yeah.
gimmick. It's
Yeah.
just
Gimmick.
marketing. It's
Yeah.
like they're incapable of actually making
Yeah.
human decisions. I'm learning that with my deals too. If it's an investor that is just money based, that's, you know, doesn't have any vested interest in the community at all, they don't care. They
Yeah.
really don't care.
Yeah.
So it's like the board of directors of Bank of America doesn't give a flying what's happening
Facts.
in certain
Facts.
neighborhoods. They don't care. But here is somebody who actually cares.
Yeah.
And this is why it works. And good will finally win.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
that.
I love it too.
I love it. I love, you know, it's funny because it also kind of is like, it's like ACME in its way. You know what I mean? It's like the like human solution to what has previously been so corporate,
Yeah.
you know? And yeah, it's amazing.
Way to wrap it up. It's so
Brilliant.
true. Yes. We thank you so much for joining us on Under All Is the Land, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Bye.
Under all is the land, real real estate. Courtney and friends about to show you how to generate wealth. Get educated, do for yourself. Add a couple notches to your belt. Under all